Oh. No, you do not. Hey, Google, what time is it in Mountain Time?
It is 1:07 p.m. in the Mountain Time Zone.
2, 3. Shoot. Hold on one sec. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. There we are. Okay. Oh
Hey,
my
Chris.
gosh. I think what happened was last week my computer crashed, and one of the symptoms were I was copying and pasting, and it wasn't pasting what I had copied. So I
Oh,
think it was just so you happened to the person before you. If I made a mistake and was giving an email address, I would have caught it. But I guess I did a Zoom and then gave you a Zoom, and it wasn't doing that because I was like, I
okay.
don't think he would wander in, right? So
Yeah.
okay, here we go. Let's dive in quickly. Let me just turn my heater. Okay, so have you had any additional thoughts since we were talking last about just your
Yes.
brand and your ideas and stuff?
Yes. I wrote down something every time I got a moment to drive and think. Um, jeez. So I was thinking about all of the themes that you pulled out.
Okay.
I really, really like the thrill of results. I definitely love misguided passions.
Okay.
Um, um, Revamping the plan and misplaced business.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I believe they apply to like three major areas of my life, which is number one, being a father, number two, being a businessman, and number three, personal relationships as well too. So it's kind of like encompassing of a whole lot. But
Okay. Now, when you see me look over here, I'm making notes just so you
that's
know.
fine.
Okay. Okay. So I've been thinking about you too, and sometimes literally I have to say, okay, Chris, stop. You're giving yourself a headache. Like you need
Yeah.
to talk to Ken and get more information. You can't solve all this by yourself. You need him. Okay.
Yeah.
So some things I want you to think about is I have had the luxury of working with this amazing man. You would know who he is. And he's the guy behind all the big guys, kind of like the Pharrell Williams of like the music industry. And he's that for the speaking industry. So people who, whatever, like somebody like Joe Theismann, and you think, oh, he hasn't played football in 20 years. Why is he still getting 30 grand on stage all these years later? Or the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, Jack Canfield, he sold it now. That's not even him anymore, but he's still making huge dollars on stage. And what's happening is with those people, what they have is a consistent brand that's constant in their message. So last week I was lucky enough to be in this room with this man. It was a very interesting story. And he was doing for years, how to do your marketing on a shoestring budget, which, as he pointed out, he taught that to people who couldn't afford marketing. So then he's getting paid a small amount to speak to people that he wants to sell to, who are there because it's economical. And so then guess what? They weren't buying. His background was, long story short, he ended up falling just literally into a career for about 15 years where he was almost like a slash manager roadie kind of deal, where he dealt with different bands like Air Supply, and not big heavy ones, but it wasn't Aerosmith, it was another one. Anyhow, so his thing turned into, rock your business. So everything he does is all about rock star. He throws t-shirts out. When you're talking to him in his webinars, he's got the guitars behind him. He uses that kind of language, right? Also, I think you, checked out Chef Jeff and stuff like that. So what the theme is, one thing we have to figure out is what's going to be the bridge that is consistent in your life, but also that you want to take your clients on, so that whether you're teaching them storytelling through video 3 years from now, or you're on space, doing your podcast, or you're doing whatever, we want a period of transformation and pain points that we want to take them across a bridge. So this stuff that we're trying to suss out of you is going to have a couple layers. It's going to be things that encompass all who you are, but it's going to be desirable for other people to want the same thing. And then in that, once we figure that out, we want it to be part of all your touch points so that it looks the same. So, and I'm not going down this road. So this is just an example because I can visualize it. It's not the answer. Okay. Let's say you were leaning heavily on your prison story, and then you would tie into like the name of your book or your podcast would be Don't Be Held Prisoner by Your Business, that kind of thing. And so everything would be something like that, where everything we now do moving forward is win the hour, win the day, something. And it all has to tie in there. So that's the thing is, as those are, I'm really glad you're grabbing on to things that I'm saying. So what we want to do is say, okay, those things resonate with you. Let's dive a little deeper and see, how do we get you from A to B, as well as something you can show your audience? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So thrill of results, misguided passions, revamping the plan. So let's pull away from you for a second and talk about your clients. When we talk about thrill of results or misguided passions, revamping the plan, can you relate to me? Does that come into any aspect of your client's journey as well? And don't panic if the answer is no, because this is a process. And let me just tell you this. It's a painful process. It's going to give you a bit of a headache. As much as we can't, in a way, speed it up too much. On the other hand, you're not paying me to do this for 6 months. So it might give us both a headache for a couple weeks. But once we got it, what I want is, like when I had Win the Hour, Win the Day, I was like excited about it. We were, okay, I can get behind this. Yeah, that makes sense, right? And then I started thinking, okay, we want it to be hopeful. I want it to be bright colors, and all of a sudden it started to unfold. So this is going to give us both a headache for the next couple weeks, but this is not something that I'm going to lean on and go, oh, we haven't figured this out, so it's month 4. That's not how it works. But I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. We're not going to get it all today, but we're going to get a deeper lean into it. Okay?
Okay, that's good. So I can definitely see thrill of results applying to my clients, and also revamping the plan. Thrill of results in the video marketing world. Well, as we tell video recaps, corporate event recaps, they are definitely excited to see how we took their event and created a story from it. And they are also excited to use that particular piece as a marketing tool. Number 1, to show people what they missed. Number 2, to show the sponsors, this is what your money went to. They're the results. And yes, look how awesome we are, right? The third thing, go ahead.
Hold on. So what's the pain point for them? You give them the thrill of results. They're all excited. Now they get to show people. So what's the pain point that you're solving with them with that?
Having a video back from their event in 24 hours or less, and it being told in a compelling manner. That's the 2 pain points we are solving for them.
So those aren't, I want a bigger pain point. So compelling manner is nice.
Okay.
And time doesn't matter. It's kind of like Amazon. Oh, when they ask for a review, nobody cares if you got it in 24 hours. Oh, this blender really works. I don't freaking care. I want to buy the blender. Do I care if you got it in 20? Don't give me that in a review. And I say that harshly, not like because I can talk to you like that. Not that it's a big deal. So the time part doesn't matter. So do they feel their story hasn't been told? They're not getting in front of the right audience. They can't express themselves. Like it needs to be a bigger pain point.
I got you. So I'm gonna push back a little bit only because my other industry partners, they take too long to get their videos. And this is probably 90% of like my clients when they call me, like, you know, it takes forever for such and such to get it back. Or like, so that is huge. The other piece is,
so let me interrupt you there. So what I want to say is not that I don't think it's important.
Yeah.
But if we had you doing your own podcast 3 months down the road, your delivery speed wouldn't be something we can celebrate on another platform.
Okay.
And
okay.
Also you may be really fast and good, but also then you lend yourself to the argument of, is this guy, if we wait another week, better? Well, and then I'll have that video for 2 years. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like price. You don't want to get into argument about being speedy.
Okay.
If you were doing marketing just for the video, then I hear what you're saying. But what we're looking at is an encompassing brand. So when you're now doing the podcast, doing the awesome storyteller, thriller results, whatever, I'm just using as an example, that speed part doesn't come into that part of your brand.
All right, that makes sense.
Okay.
So is it that their story hasn't been told? Yes. Maybe. Yes. Yes. The answer to your question is yes. A lot of my clients are like, you know, nobody has told our story. So yes, that is a yes.
Okay. And what does that work, the pain point for them? Like when their story hasn't been told, what does that cost them?
So in a nonprofit world, if nobody's telling their story, that means they can't get donors. So their funding could be held up because they're like, nobody knows what we do. So it could be from a donor, they can't get donors is a problem. They need participants. So their message can't get out to even get participants to participate in their nonprofit. Ask me some more. That's all I can think about for.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so lack of exposure.
Yes.
Lack of momentum. Okay, lack of exposure, lack of momentum. Okay, so thriller results. Feeling stuck. And then you tell their story. Thriller results, thriller story, misguided passions. And stuck. Thriller results. So after they get it to you, what tell me some of the stuff they say.
After they get what to me? I'm thinking of pictures in my head. After you get the video to them, what are some of the things they say about it? Like, wow, I didn't know you were, how did you get this angle? I didn't know you were here. I didn't even see you here. Like, where were you standing? What an amazing story. It made me cry. You know, the visuals you use supported the story.
Okay, brought to life. This is kind of brought to life. Okay, so now let's think about their journey and your journey. So if you're bringing things to life and you're telling their story and you're getting it out, then we're talking about you're just starting to tell your story now, you know, with the whole, I was from here to there, your journey of business, your misguided journey of business looking for results. What do we see as the similarities in those paths?
Similarities in those paths. Outside of the obvious, I tell everybody else's story well, but not my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
So, okay, let me think. So, thrill of results.
all right, ask me again.
So what I want to see is parallels in your two journeys. So you talk about, okay, for you was the thrill of results. And for you it was, okay, I had a business aptitude. I wanted to do business and I did the wrong business and I knew that I was doing that at the time. You're saying, look, I didn't want to be a gangster. I didn't want to be all cool and with swagger about selling drugs. It was to pay the bills. I needed to make money, right? So it was sort of like what the shortcuts cost you. And then, oh, hold on. What the shortcuts cost you. So if they're not using you and they're trying to tell their story all the time, they're not getting it out there. They're like, we don't know how much it's costing their business because they're not getting the sponsors. They're not getting all that stuff, right? Does that make
Yes.
sense? Okay.
Yes.
So what the shortcuts cost you. Okay. All righty. What the shortcuts cost you. Thrill of results. Shortcut. Okay.
Wow.
What the shortcuts cost you. Okay. Let's say I gave you a podcast tomorrow. Magic wand, you started your podcast. What's some topics you would want to talk about?
I always hear one of my mentors say, drug dealers are in the right business, but just got the wrong product. They do exactly what Walmart do every day: buy low, sell high. So buy low, sell high will be a topic that will apply in a street pharmaceutical game, in the illegal realm and the legal realm. Some of the things I would talk about is business relationships. Like, I am huge on business relationships. I'm not the best filmmaker, photographer out here. However, I've built some very dope relationships over the last 13 years that afford me the opportunity to make, six figures. Relationships, the proper way to network, which is contrary to what a lot of people teach.
And you're also building relationships with the video as well.
Okay.
Right? Because what I mean is when they put that video out now, people get to know them as better.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes. If I had a podcast, what other topics would I talk about? I would definitely talk about I would definitely structure a message to single moms who are dealing with, who are raising young boys. It's really, especially in the Black community, where they have gifts and talents that they get squashed instead of mom or dad trying to develop a misguided passion that the child has.
Okay. So what I hear from you, on one hand, I always struggle with, like, even when I don't know if you know my story. I don't know if you know, did you know my husband passed away?
Yeah, you told me.
Okay. So I struggled with telling that story for a long time not because it was sad or anything like that, but I didn't want it to define me or him was the only thing that he did. Right. He did a lot more than that. So I struggled with that. And then, so I think my natural instinct sometimes is to protect people, pull back. Now, I didn't want to pin the whole drug dealing thing on you and be the only thing. But I think that the more you talk about, it's still a big part of who you are and how you see the world, with the Black community, with drug dealers being the right business, the wrong product, although it's still a big fabric of your pain point, your learning lessons. And so how you're always going to move forward so you'll never end up there again. And then also there is a lot of fundamental stuff about, I watched one time, I think it was called How to Be a Drug Dealer. It was like the best documentary I think I've ever seen on any topic. And it was so good. Wow. And it was talking about drugs and all the different, arenas like from court to, and then they would interview drug dealers or how cops, just how drugs touch every arena of whatever. It's like 2-hour video. And then they even interview drug dealers are saying like, you never go over the speed limit. You're not going to get pulled over for going 60 kilometers in a 40 zone and get busted. Right. And it just brought such insight to me about this, all good, all bad. Cops are, like the whole Wild West of it. It really showed the business fabric behind it and what that was like, right? And then one guy, this cop even did, this was, I don't know, I think I saw the video like 10 years ago, so it definitely wasn't in this modern day of info products. The cop then left the police industry and then made videos of how, to get around a bust or whatever. And he sold info products to drug dealers and whatever. It was really, he made a lot of money. So anyhow, so I think that there is this fascination of that world that we get bits and pieces of through TV and stuff. Did you ever see The Wire?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I watched it once. I could never watch it twice, but it was really well done of how they articulated and showed how it permeated all different industries. So it was really well done. So I think people, even if they can't relate to it at all, I think it's interesting because you're right. There are parallels that are so just wrong product. That's all, right? And I think it does pull you out and make it like, look, I'm not just like, hey, let's go cheer on. Like, this is where I am and I'm never going back there. And here's the lessons and blah, blah, blah. So it comes out in a lot of things that you talk about. So I think we could hang our hat on that a little bit and then figure out what's the message. So what's the name and what's the message? So what I'm hearing from you right now is, okay, drug dealers, business, buy low, sell high. Is your fundamental business chops are really good. The business chops are there. And you're weaving them into the videos to accelerate the business people, your clients, whatever, right? And you, at the drop of a hat, could talk about this on a podcast and or your book. What's the theme of your book? What's the backbone to that?
Misguided passions.
Pardon me?
Misguided passions.
Okay. Misguided passions. Okay. Misguided passions. And give me some teasers about it.
So, and I didn't want to stop you in the middle of your thought process. So selling drugs was not the pinnacle of a lot of the lessons that I got. Selling drugs came as a result of me living a life of stealing. Right.
Okay.
So stealing things was like, that's what I actually went to therapy and found out that I had been stealing since I was in the 7th grade.
Okay.
So immediate gratification is more of my message than being a dope boy. Selling drugs was, that was a part of the journey.
Gotcha.
But it all came as a result of me stealing, as a result of my immediate gratification issues.
Okay. So that's the theme to everything. Okay. And how does that tie into that you would talk about in your podcast, your book, or what you deliver with your clients? Can you see any patterns there?
Immediate gratification tying into the podcast, we would definitely talk about how the gift of immediate gratification that I always had, it was never nurtured. Nobody could ever look at me and look inside of me and say, hey, you got something there, but it just needs to be brought, instead of a basement level gift, it needs to be brought to the balcony level, finding out ways that you can be profitable for having immediate gratification issues. It wasn't until I got in business that I found out that I can actually still keep my immediate gratification issues and make them profitable, legal, and make a killer business out of it.
So something like basement to balcony business, fast results. I'm not saying that's it. It's still a little bit long, but that could lend, what I want you to understand is the pattern I'm going for. You could, if let's pretend that was the name. You could then say that to your video clients. Look, what our videos do is they get you from basement to balcony. You know, we're talking seller to luxury, basement to balcony, fast results, right?
Yeah.
And then you could also tie that into all the topics you want to talk about on your podcast or your book.
Yes.
But what I need is something that will lend itself to everything you want to do moving forward, tying it all together.
Yes. So, I fast results, yes. Thrill of results, yes. Basement to balcony business, like that. Basement to balcony applies to these three major areas: me as a businessman, a father, and my personal relationships. Like when I look back over all of that, I had issues because I was operating from a basement level. You know, like I need my gifts and talents and skills need to be cultivated and brought to a higher level, and I didn't have enough patience to endure the lessons. It was just like I want it now, and I want it, and I did everything the wrong way. In business, I did. Go ahead.
No, so that's what you could be saying to your clients too. Like, I get you. Oh my gosh, I know what you're saying. And listen, that's one of the reasons we deliver in 24 hours, because I know that I took a lot of bad paths and shortcuts because I was in a basement level business. I wanted to be in a balcony. And I thought if I just pushed through and rushed, I'd get there quicker. But what we're going to give for you today is this is really what we're going to be doing. And this is why it's so important. And then you can do your pitch. Does that make sense?
Chris. You just blew my freaking socks off.
Thanks.
Wow.
So I'm not saying that this may be the name, it may not be the name. I have definitely named things right off the bat that I gave a client. I thought we had, you know, here's an idea. And she goes, no, that's it. We're done. But I'm not saying this could very well be the name. But what I want you to see, whether it's a name or not, is what I'm trying to do. So that could tie into any conversation in a podcast, in a book, that could talk about you if you were on stage, and that could be something you sell a client the next product with, because you can tie it into all those things.
Wow. Yes.
Does it make sense?
It's mind blowing, but yes.
Okay. Okay.
It feels so good to hear this.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that's the thing where, and I don't say this arrogantly, I just saved you like at least 5 to 10 years of frustration, because what would happen is you would go off in different roads and you try to make it here, try to make it there, and you're going to write a book and you're going to do podcasts, and you think, well, yeah, everyone says I got a radio voice. How come my podcast's not taken off? And you know, my story is really good when I told them how come it didn't work in a book, because you have to tie it together. You know what I mean? And that's a Walmart's Walmart, because you can go there and get underwear and Pampers and bananas, right? And so then they know, okay, here we are. Whereas you're be sending people, only your mother, like my mother couldn't, like, she's not going to, except for your mother, she's not going to remember all these different product names and book names and all that other stuff. It's just not going to happen. Somebody who truly, truly loves you will do it. Nobody else will, right? You want them to remember your personal name, your business name, your book name, the podcast name, your video, like too many things, right? And then they don't see the theme. You're asking them to weave together the theme. So with Win the Hour, Win the Day, I can now tie it into anything. Hey, you want to win the hour, win the day marketing? You really want to get out there? Yeah, you need to do your marketing, because with Win the Hour, Win the Day, you see what I mean? So I can talk about anything if I tie it into that. And that's the thing, business to balcony business, basement to balcony business. Then also people have a visual. Visuals are really strong. They're like, oh, because that's one of the things when people read my book and the way I wrote the book out, I talk about being a struggler or a successful person. And the really awesome thing that I get all the time is people say, oh, Chris, I read the whole book. And I kept thinking, I don't want to be a struggler. I don't want to be a struggler. I am a struggler. So then they self-diagnose. So something like, and I'm not sure if this is it, but something we can't jump up today. We have to, you know, let it sit for a bit, but something like basement to balcony business, they would self-diagnose, and that aids you even more. Because then you're not lecturing them, you're letting them decide who, well, you know what? And then, then we could get into language. So here, oh, hold on now, I'm excited. Okay, yeah, pay attention. Here's the big thing. When you're really good, you start to create a language. And I'm going to show you how to do that, right? So think of like, whether you watch it or not, I do not, but like Survivor, show like that. Whether you watch it or not, you know the language. So you start saying, oh, okay, right. There's this language, or here's a rose. I've never watched that Bachelor show, but I know what that rose means, right? Because I see the commercial. So what happens is, for me, I start creating. So now we've come up with, you need to create your win team. What's a win team? WIN. It's what is next team. So what is next means you can move on to the next thing. And then I start talking about different things. YME. That means you're missing execution. So all of a sudden, if you start creating this language, then you look like, you're the expert and you're the thought leader. So I have, or CAPS, when I'm hiring somebody, it's character, action, personality, service. So I'm always looking for success. I'm always looking for acronyms, because then I've got my own language. If I've got my own language, I own it, right? Mm-hmm. So the really great part about this is we can attach a language to this. Listen, maybe today you don't feel like you're in the basement. Maybe you've been on the first floor a couple times, and then you look back and you're like, how the heck did I get in the basement? I thought I was on the first floor, which meant I was going to go to the second floor. No, you're battling between the basement and the first floor. Well, I want to get you out of there. I want to get you to the balcony. Right? Wow. So what we want is something that we can hang our hat on and constantly create language. Whereas I think the basement to the balcony or something like that gives us stuff where we can start visualizing, because it's language that everybody can relate to, right? So that's the difference there too, is people like, oh yeah, I can visualize an apartment, or I can visualize being, you could later down the road have info products of, look, we've got the business to balcony program. It's $49.95, not a problem. But if you want the penthouse, this is where it really gets good. For the penthouse, it's an extra $50, but so you can start seeing how you can sell it. And you can see how you can market all that. So that's what we want. We want a name that translates you and the pain point of your clients, that we can take them anywhere on the journey, and stuff that we can hang our hat on and create a language.
I love it.
You could even listen, I'm the guy. Other people might get you basement to balcony, but we've got the elevator.
Oh, that's right.
Right? And do you feel like not only are you in the basement, but in fact, you're the janitor of your own business? You want to get out of there? Listen, let's drop that big whack of keys you have that makes you look like you're running around like a crazy person trying to do all these things. You work with us. We're in the balcony. You don't have that rattle the key chain. You just make stuff you can just really tie into that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Of course. Of course.
Win the Hour, Win the Day is a long title, and I did know it would have to be before everything I do now. Win the Hour, Win the Day, Team Builder. But people love Win the Hour, Win the Day. It stops them in the tracks. They remember it. That's another thing. You want something that they can remember. So immediate gratification, too long, too wordy. Even if we can make it sexy, it's too long, too wordy, right? So business to balcony, I gotta stop saying that. Basement to balcony business. Again, we have to sleep on it. I'm not saying that's the thing, but it's only 4 words. But I talk too quickly. So basement to balcony business. We might play around. I like the word business because we need that, but maybe, I don't know, maybe there'll be something, maybe it'll just be tweaked a little bit. We'll play around with it, but it's got many things going for you. It's got a transformation. It's got something people can visualize. It's got results. Basement to balcony business, fast results. Basement to balcony business. Take the elevator. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing that I want you to, as you're letting all this sink into your brain this week, I want you to know what I'm trying to do. It's because that's something that could lend itself to anything you do. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you have questions?
No, I'll just be chewing on that till the next time we talk.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything I need to, slide to one side of my mouth or slide to this side while I'm chewing.
So what I would say is just remember it's something that has to transcend to anything that you would do. So, we could talk basement to balcony business, and you could be talking about the path of the black man. You could be talking, which I think is hilarious. There's nothing more stupid I feel in the whole world is little white old me talking to you about even throwing that sentence together. I think is like the dumbest thing. So let you know, because I'm just like all kinds of white. There's no ethnicity to me whatsoever. I'm very boring. So every time I throw that sentence out, I think, oh yeah, look at me using big stupid words.
Nah,
but anyhow, what I think you've got it. I think you understand what I'm trying to do right now is it has to be able to translate to anything. So if you're going to be on a podcast, you could talk about the journey of the black man from basement to balcony. And listen, you know what, with the Black Lives Matter, that's just, I've been saying that for years, guys. They're still in the basement. And here's what I want to pioneer this, or I want to help the black community with business because I want to get them to the balcony. You know what I mean? So it could tie into anything that you mentioned to me today that is important to you. I don't want my kids living in the basement when they're 30. I don't want them to have to dig their way out from the basement like I did. Man, I'd love them to start on the 3rd floor. So I want you to understand that it could tie into anything we do, no matter what the name we pick, and that it has to be something that will be a pain point for anything you do: podcast, book, video, public speaking, any touch point. Make sense?
Yes. All right. So when I finish my homework, what will it look like next time we talk?
So what I'd like you to do is, I just don't want to overreact. I want you to, because I'm just playing devil's advocate. I just want you to pull that out, and every time you got a second in the next week, just mull it over and say, yeah, does that sit well with me? Because I also don't want you to get caught up in immediate gratification, get overexcited and say, let's do it, right? So what I want you to do is just mull it over, chew it over, and then start thinking about things that you may not, one thought will lead to another. So you might think of, yeah, that reminds me of my breakup, or yeah, that reminds me of a relationship with my mom. Every time I turn around, yeah, that resonates with me. Or you might say, I'm just being silly, I've struggled with weight. That doesn't resonate here. Or my clients say this. So I just want you to mull it around. And anytime you think of a question or a thought either supports it or contradicts it, just make a little note in your phone, because it was stuff you gave me today that helped me pull that out. So it's just letting it permeate and see, you know what, we planted the seeds. Can you see little things coming up, little grass blades? Yeah. And you might come back next week and say, listen, Chris, it was 24 hours in and I just knew that was it. And it's great. Then we start. But I just want to, we're out of time today anyhow. So even if I said, oh my gosh, that's the answer, let's start talking about what that looks like with logos and colors and branding. We couldn't do it today anyhow. So we might as well use this week to let it stew. Right? Because also sometimes too, the thrill of it, when you were over here and you said had such a hot mess, and I start pulling ideas out, once I even hit one nerve, you might get overexcited, like, that was because I've never been able to formulate that thought before. So you get so excited, but it doesn't mean it's the complete thought. Right? Make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's good.
Okay. All right, let's look at our calendar next week. See, I told you we don't, no surprises. We don't play around. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next week. What is that? Well, that'll be a pickle. Let's see. Tricky. I don't want to move you around. Okay. I bought a house and it's unsure with the pandemic whether my closing date is next week or the 20th. Yeah. So it's a little bit kind of funny. So can you do, normally I'll probably have you on a Wednesday or Thursday, but if my house closes next week, I don't want to reschedule you. So can you do Tuesday? Oh, that's not you. Hold on one sec. No, hold on. Sorry, bear with me. I know. Can you do Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern?
Tuesday the 11th?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let me do this. p.m. That way, no matter what happens, I won't have to move you. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? Here's what I'm going to do. Zoom. No, never mind. Okay, I'll send you a link right after this call. So, or it may be in a couple hours, but you get the link and we are good for Tuesday, the 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I love it.
Okay. Yay. All right.
Yep.
Good session.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
Bye-bye.